Well, hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the Facts and Fatherhood podcast. I'm your host, Demetrius, and I am so glad to be able to join you for another great conversation here on our podcast. You know, I always say it. My goal is only to help you love being a father the way that I love being a father. I really, truly do cherish the opportunity that I have been given to be the father to what I believe are three of the greatest people on the face of the planet. My three children. They literally are some of my favorite people, and I am really privileged to have the opportunity to be their dad and to be the grandfather of my first grandson. I'm telling y'all, it's a wonderful thing. And I know that you, just like me, can love being a father no matter what stage of fatherhood you're in, whether you are still getting up at night, changing all kinds of diapers and having all kinds of formula, burps throw up on you and all that kind of stuff like that, all kinds of things that you may be doing, or you are at the end and you're an empty nester and you're waiting for grandchildren to come, or you like me, that first grandchild has come. No matter what stage or age of fatherhood you are in, you can love being a father. I love one of the t-shirts that I have that says fatherhood is the toughest job you will ever love. Okay. So again, thank you so much for joining me, for being a part. Y'all know I always got to ask you before we go further. I want you to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Listen, I'm telling you, you do want to make sure that you share this episode with somebody else. Matter of fact, just tell them to go ahead and check out all the episodes on the podcast, right? Very great information that is available only to help you develop at being a great father. Well, I do want to keep you reminded. I want to make sure you also go down to this website. I want you to go and check out www.factsandfathers.com. There are some great resources that are available over there for you. There's a blog that's talking about things concerning fatherhood. There's a store where you can get some great merch. As a matter of fact, while we're talking about the merch, I am so excited to report to you that very soon you are going to be able to get your hands on the new book, Like Arrows in My Hand. Okay, this is a book that I have written that is going to be a phenomenal tool for all fathers, parents, but mainly we're focused on fathers and our role and our responsibility. There's a scripture. Y'all know I always tell y'all that I am unapologetic about the scriptures here. Okay. There's a scripture that says, like arrows are in the hands of a mighty man, so the children of the youth, blessed is the man who had his quiver full of them. So your children are like arrows in your hand. And so we're going to talk about your responsibility in this book. I can't wait. Be on the lookout for the announcement for that day. Also, I did something on behalf of my wonderful father that is no longer with us. There are some things that he used to always say. And one of the things he often said was, boy, girl, whatever, don't let the devil fool you. So you can actually grab this hoodie, grab the t-shirt, grab the cap or whatever over there in our little store. And you can remind yourself and you can remind other people not to let the devil fool them. All right. Go over there and grab that. And then one of my other favorite tools that we have available there is going to be the Target Practice Journal, that you can kind of record your journey as you are going along, as you're developing, and as you're doing all the things you're doing. You can go back and look at your journey, and perhaps it can be something that can be a tool to help somebody else later on when you go back and review your journey as a father and how you've grown and how you develop. That is so important in our life. So do me a favor, go over to the store, go and grab some of those products over there. As a matter of fact, you actually can get this little cap right here, the Facts of Fatherhood podcast cap and tees and all the kind of things, man, you can actually go over there and get. So do me a favor, go over to www.factsandfathers.com. As a matter of fact, you can actually hit that little QR code that's up in the corner of the screen, and you'll actually be able to go directly to the site. All right. So do that favor. Do yourself a favor and go over there and grab you some merch. Go over there and grab you that Target Practice Journal. Get you that hoodie. Get you that T-shirt. Get you that cap. Whatever it is, go over there and support us as we continue to try to bring you great conversations and great content here on the Facts and Fatherhood podcast. Well, I am so happy to be able to invite to the stage, everybody, would you help me please welcome my guest today in the person of Mr. Albert Butler. Man, how you doing today?
Wow, Demetrius. I'll tell you, that intro, that opening is probably one of the best ones
Yeah.
I've experienced. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I love what you just presented. Fatherhood is the one hardest
Mhm.
job that you will love. It is a very, very
Yes.
powerful statement. I'm so glad you shared it. And it just takes me back to all the experience I had with my dad and all the experience I'm having with my four children right now. Just so your audience knows, I am a CPA. I'm licensed in multiple different states all throughout the U.S. and I work with so many different leaders, organizations, but I work with families and I work with individuals to support those families. And in those families are those fathers, those men who have a duty to take care of that family, and that's a real, real, real powerful honor. It is a very, very powerful obligation, and it comes with a layer of respect along with it. That also comes with eyeballs of those that are watching, which is the most powerful thing. So, Demetrius, thank you for inviting me. Hopefully, your audience will hear something from the stories that we're going to share that they can put into their own toolkit and use in their lives. And this is going to be a memorable podcast today. So, thank you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So Albert, tell us a little bit more about what you do, who you are, all the things. We want to hear more about you, man. Tell us about who you are and what you do.
Well, I am a CPA, like I mentioned before, but I am a partner in an accounting firm, along with someone who works with clients to understand who they are internally. I'm a big believer that numbers give clarity. And I've been in this accounting profession for well over 25 years. And what I've learned through my journey is that when you know your numbers, when you know what your goal and what you're striving and purpose really you is able to help properly order your steps through the Lord. And that's the real thing, because sometimes God is going to be on your shoulder telling you, giving you those thoughts, giving you those dreams, giving you that aspiration, telling you what you should be walking and doing. And then on the other side, there's something called doubt, anxiety, burnout that kicks in on the backside and making you say, you know what, I'm just going to just wait. I'm gonna have a level of resistance inside of it. Well, I'm that person that you come to and we talk through those things, because the longer you wait, the more you're not walking in your purpose. And the longer you're not walking in your purpose, you're not only doing a disservice to yourself in your current state, you're doing a disservice to yourself in your past state, because that younger version of you had all those goals, aspirations, and dreams too. But you're also doing a disservice to your future self, because your future self is expecting you to perform today. And when you do a disservice to your future self, you're doing a disservice to your overall family, which just hurts your overall legacy. And I want to make sure everybody understands how important it is to make sure your legacy is properly aligned.
Wow, that right there is so crucially important for us to understand. I mean, our duty, our role as fathers, man, is so incredibly important. And I don't think it is something that can be overstated. One of the reasons why I'm in this space is because I discovered, as I'm taking a look and examining things, I'm like, man, there's so much available for mothers, and we definitely appreciate the mothers. Shout out to the mothers in a few days. Everybody's going to be celebrating Mother's Day and, taking all the stuff off the shelves and doing all the things
Yes,
for the
sir.
mothers. So we definitely appreciate, our mothers and their contribution. But man, I just felt like there was so much available for mothers and so many tools and all that that was available, and there's conversations, and there's podcasts, and there's shows, and there's, all the things, right? And I just didn't feel like there was enough available for fathers, which is how I got into this particular space and why we're having this conversation. And speaking of tools, you are also the author of a book that is a part of a life series. And this is book number 1 from my understanding of the series. It is called Life, Truth, Love, Loss, Success, and Failure. Wow. And this book quotes advice from a father to his children on how to win in life. Tell us a little bit more about that book and what inspired you to write that, man.
So it's interesting because the inspiration for the book is truly my children. And the journey of it began well over 18 years ago now, when in the work that I do, I travel all over the world, especially younger in my career. I was all over the place, everywhere, all from leaving out of Houston, going up to New York, from New York to Chicago, from Chicago to LA, and from LA over to the far east and different parts of all just everywhere. In every country you can think of, I've actually put my feet down upon, except Antarctica, it's only one. But in all that travel, I got married. I had my first son, and he turned to be my only son. And 18 months later, God blessed my wife and I with another extremely powerful bundle of joy, and it was my daughter. And having my son first kind of set the stage for fatherhood and what it really was. And it's like, oh, yes, I have a son. But ladies and gentlemen, when you have your daughter, your first daughter, it is a different level of responsibility that falls on a father's heart, that I have to be who she's going to look to of what a man is supposed to be, and how a man is supposed to walk, and how a man is supposed to discipline, carries himself, and presents himself. And it's the biggest responsibility, that overarching of all of that, how is his walk with God? That is the most important thing from a father perspective, to make sure that you have an anchor in your life that is bigger than you. Because there gets a lot of times when you sit back talking to yourself about what you should do. But sometimes you got to be quiet long enough and settle down long enough that God is going to talk to you in a space of clarity, and give you that clarity, and give you in a space of silence, where you turn all the noise off. And you'll be amazed at the words the Lord will give you to help you in those times you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. So that journey began when I had to leave my little girl, who had just been born. She might have been only 6 weeks old at the time. And I'm leaving to go from Houston over to Singapore. That's an 18 to 20-hour flight. On that flight, Demetrius, I'm sitting there and I doze off for a second, and I wake up. I'm like, what if something was to happen to me? What if this plane didn't make it over to Singapore? What if I didn't make it back home? Who would give my 2 children the fatherly advice that my father gave me, my grandfather gave me, my aunts, uncles, cousins, mother, grandmother, all these people who have sold into my life? Who would give it to my children? And leaving that duty to my wife alone is not fair. So in that moment, God spoke to me and said, pull out your pen and pull out your pad and start writing down every quote, every aphorism, every saying, everything that has been poured inside of you, and write it down and write it down and write it down. So Demetrius, over the past 17 plus years, I was writing down these quotes, aphorisms, and sayings of things of how I govern myself and how I move in life, because I wanted to give my children a gift that would give them the knowledge that, hey, dad's not perfect, but dad loves you. And in the book, I say, in everything in life, you have the right to blame me for everything that's wrong. But everything that goes right for you, make sure that you give honor to God, that he put me as your earthly steward to give you the fatherly advice that you need to make sure that you can be as successful as you can be. And read these words inside this book, and that's where that advice comes from. So that's the genesis of it. That's where it came from. That's what it really is. It is a book of scripture, a book of quotes, and then stories of my past state, from the journeys that I was going through and the outcomes of those. It is truth. It is love. It is loss. It's success. And it is definitely failures that I write about inside this book, because those failures are the things of the struggles that I've had that has helped me be in the chair I'm in today, where I can even have this conversation with you and for your audience. So it is a work that's very, very precious to me. It is a work that I leave for my children, but it's a work that I'm leaving for the world, and complete exposure to learn from everything that I've gone through. And it's getting some great reviews as well too. So I'm very, very excited about it.
Wow, wow. Well, listen, y'all. Listen, I need y'all just do me a favor going over to Amazon. Go ahead and grab the book. That's what you need to do. Go ahead and grab the book. I mean, I love your emphasis on the connector between the relationship that you have with your children, and how much you were, as a father, thinking, ahead, concerning your children. And, we're talking about the reality of how important it is for a father to be able to see beyond the moment, see beyond himself, and be able to think in a generational way, right? Be able to think down the line. You said you woke up on the plane and you were like, man, what if, right? And sometimes we can have those what if questions, and a lot of times the response will come back, as a fear-based response. But that what if led you to start taking some action that says, I know I'm not going to always be here, right? But there is something that I can leave to my children, something that can be a benefit to my children, even to their children. And the Bible talks about the fact that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, right?
Proverbs 13,
And in the
22
reality
all
of that,
day.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so we understand how important it is, in our quest to be good men and be those godly men that we should be, that we think about those generations that are going to come behind us, that we think about the people who are going to be following in our path and following in our footsteps. And we actually demonstrate that we thought about them. When we talk about inheritance, we're talking about more than just leaving something to them, but also leaving something in them, right? So if you leave the right thing in them, they'll do the right thing with what you leave to them, right? So it's important for us to be thinking about that and be thinking, generationally, and really, really thinking about down the line. And I really love the fact that you're addressing every single aspect. I mean, it's touching a lot. We're talking about love, we talking about truth, we talking about loss, success, and we're talking about failure. And I'm sure that probably all of those have shaped you in some way. But which one of those has shaped you in the most out of all of those?
I will tell you that my parents are no longer with us. They've moved on to the next plane of life. And the loss of those two people created a paradigm shift inside of me to understand that those that's coming behind me are watching me, just like I was watching them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do it. The dedication inside my book is to my mother. It is literally the eulogy that I gave at her funeral. While the 2 or 3 chapters in there talks about my father and the impact that he had inside of me, both good and bad. So, and it's very, very transparently spoken about. But I wouldn't change a word. I wouldn't change nothing. I wouldn't change one experience. Although I wish they were still here with me, but on the same token, that's me being selfish. And the
Mm-hmm.
biggest lesson that you can have is that life does go on, but being selfish of trying to hold on to something that's not for this space anymore hinders your growth. Demetrius, I'm growing. I'm evolving. I am moving to a certain place because this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to share these words. I'm supposed to have these experiences. I'm supposed to be at this stage in my life because it's just that important. It's not about me. It's about those that I will never even meet. Those are the children that are going to come down the road, like we just explained, that I'll never get a chance to even meet. So I have a duty to them to make sure that I'm setting the stage. Because as I stand on my parents' shoulders, my kids must stand on mine. And then their children must stand on theirs. And it's a generational movement, not generational wealth. That word gets used way too much and sometimes inappropriately. We're moving generations. We're scaling generations, and in every aspect of it, walking in a level of abundance, not in a space of fear, not in a space of lack. That mindset is what's going to continue to move all of us to the next stage.
Wow. Yeah, I think quite often, and I tell this story quite a bit. I alluded to it. I just had an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity to speak at one of our in our local area. There's a organization that that we kind of partner with that's focused on several different things concerning the family, and they're concerned about fatherhood in particular. And they have this big summit every year that's called the Fatherhood Effect Summit. And so I just had the opportunity to be one of the presenters at that summit. And, one of the things I alluded to, which is what I say I talk about quite often, is how when I first held my first child,
Mm.
my son, in the hospital, I remember having a conversation with God, and I was like, listen, I do not know what I'm doing. I'm going to need you to help me. I mean, I just, that was the conversation. That's it. That's the prayer, right?
That's
I
it.
don't know what I'm doing. I need you to help me, right? And we already know the James told us if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask God, right? And we know that he's faithful to provide and give that wisdom. And of course, on this side of things, I'm able to say that he absolutely did that. But over the process of time, there were things that I learned, even as you say, allude to thankfully, my mom is still with us. My dad, he passed on 2019. And like you said, that loss, it's different. From the seat that I sit in, just to kind of give you a little history, 2006, I'm the oldest of four children. 2006, I had the sister that was born after me. She passed away, right? We're in our 20s, right? 2014, my baby sister, she passes away, right? Both of those losses were very, very deep. Both of those losses were very, very challenging in their own way. I had the responsibility of preaching the eulogies for those funerals. But then 2019, my dad passes away. And again, I have the responsibility of delivering the eulogy for his funeral. I have to tell you that was the most significant loss that I have ever experienced in my life. It was different, right? And every loss, in so many ways, it affects you differently. The loss of my sisters obviously affected me differently than the loss of my father. But it was just something about the loss of a parent or losing a parent that really does something to your perspective on the reality of life, right? You get to a certain point. I think it was T. Jakes one time I heard him saying that after his parents passed away, he was kind of standing there and he was thinking, oh, wait a minute, one day I got to do this too, right? So it kind of makes you really pay closer attention to what it is that you are doing, how you are, connecting, with your own children, how you are relating to them, because you start to really, I know I did for me, as I was relating to thinking about my relationship with my dad, which developed over time to be a great one. The relationship that I had with my father, I literally was thinking, along those lines of how the relationship I had with him impacts the relationship that I have with my own children. The things that he shared, the things that he taught. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, like early when I was talking about the hoodie and t-shirt and all that we made with that little phrase on it, when I think about those things, those statements that he made, because he just had all these quotes. I guess that's just a thing of that generation. Had all
Yeah.
these quotes or whatever that he would say. And these are things that he would be, repeat quite often, and that statement about don't let the devil fool you was one of those that he would make when he was trying to, let you know you really need to think about what it is that you're trying to do. Because you about to make a mistake and you about to let the devil trick you, in one way or another. But thinking about that and, thinking about his life and the connect that I had with him really, 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 really made me, take another look, at how I was relating to my children. What would they say about me? What would they think about me, if I was to, when it comes to that point and it's time for me to move on? Is there something that I've invested in them? Have I invested enough? That's the big one right there. Time with them and in them. Have I given them enough of the tools? I always told my children, I said, I feel like if I'm going to call myself successful, that means that you are prepared where you are able to successfully function without me.
That's it.
Right. That means I've successfully done my job as a father, but it's trial and error. And even though through my process of learning, and because you ask the Father for wisdom and you ask him for knowledge and understanding, and some people think it's just going to drop down. He's going to open your head and just going to pour it down and just drop down on you. But the reality is that he takes you through series of experiences, takes you through different moments, right? Where you are actually really learning, how to listen to him, how to, just follow that thing or whatever that he's put in you and follow even his spirit, that will kind of lead and guide you. And sometimes you go through those processes. And when you're going through those processes, it is, you are getting that wisdom, but you're getting that wisdom through that experience, those experiences that you have, time after time. And so I think about that. And I think about, now my children are all adults. They just all had a birthday. That's a funny thing. All my children got the same birthday, by the way. They just all had a birthday. We have an older son, and then we have a set of boy-girl twins that all have the same birthday. And the oldest turned 24, and the twins turned 23. And now that we're on this side, and I think about the relationship and the connection that, we have, often I do think about that. And then my grandson, I often do think about, like, when the time comes and I am no longer physically present, what impact would I have had on them? How will they remember me? And then how will they talk about me to those generations that come behind me that will never meet me? And I just think it's so important for us as fathers to really, really hone in on that, really, and just kind of consider that, because it's hard to think like that and stay selfish.
Exactly.
Wouldn't you agree? It's hard, man.
It's really almost impossible to think of selfish. Yeah. Because I would go one step further and say, have you ever asked the question about what would they say about you? A lot of fathers miss this point as well, too. A lot of parents, people miss this. Communication is a two-way street. If you're thinking it, you should probably say it. Because if you don't say it, your question never gets answered. So I play a game. I play a game with my kids, and it just comes up random sometimes. It's called Quiz Show, especially when we're driving in the car all together. And I'll say, Quiz Show, Quiz Show, Quiz Show. Hey guys, here's the question. What do you really think about your dad? Just let's see what they got to say. What do you really think about your mom? Just to see what they have to say. And it's so weird. They say all these great things about their mom. They say all these very, not harsh, but coming from this perspective of a child up, because I'm a disciplinarian, it's like, oh, you so hard on us, all this. I'm like, but at the end of the day, and the response back is because I love you, because I love you. And it's interesting as to ask that question. So I challenge everyone in your audience who's listening to this, ask the question, have the conversation.
Wow.
Sit people down and just say, hey, you know what? What do you think about me? and just see what they have to say. And really try to position it in a way that, hey, don't, it's not with any type of flattery. I truly want to know. Because the big thing that people miss out on is receiving feedback and requesting feedback. And the third thing is giving yourself feedback. I have a
Mm-hmm.
framework that I try to use on a consistent basis, and I advertise this to so many people when I challenge them with it. It's called Plan, Act, Review, and
Yes.
everything that we do, we have to plan for it, because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. It's so consistent, so consistent. But I tell you, don't take forever trying to plan. Put your plan into action. Even if you feel like it's not exactly clear, put your plan into action, because action is going to tell you if you have social proof on what's supposed to take place. So you got to get it into action. But this is the piece that's
Mm-hmm.
most important, is the review stage. Review, review, review. Review yourself, request review, and be accepting of the review to put that review into the next plan. Because if you don't do
Mm-hmm.
that and you don't go back to the drawing board, how can you truly monitor your success? And monitoring
Mm-hmm.
success is predicated on the failures that you've had before. So that's another reason for the title of the book: Truth, Love, Loss, Success, and Failure. And that monitoring piece is something that you have control over, so you can say, hey, did this work or did this not work? As compared to the
Mm-hmm.
world telling you it didn't work. It's always critical,
Mm-hmm.
always important. So
Yeah.
I share it with your audience. I think it's important. Ask people what they really think about you, and then review yourself. What do you think about yourself?
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And you also have another part of that framework. That's the TPW, right? That's the
Yeah,
the train, practice, and work, right?
that's
One of the
exactly
things
right.
in my secular vocation, I am a stickler for training. One of the reasons why I'm a stickler for training is because I know I cannot hold you accountable to what I have not taught you to do. I can't have an expectation of you of something that I've not taught you to do. But here's the interesting thing I find about training, and which is why I like how you put this. Whatever I have been trained in, I've got to put it into practice, right?
True.
I actually got to do the work, you know. And so, tell us a little bit more about your training and practice and work, and how that ties into your to bringing us on par. Can I use that?
That's it. That's it. So
Bringing us up to par.
this
How does
was
that work?
this was special, and I hope everybody in your audience, if you're sitting down, get your notepad out. It's time to take some notes. This is the real core of it, and it's going to flip things upside on his head a little bit. Training is done alone. I'm gonna say it
Mm-hmm.
again. Training is done alone. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go and take something that you do not know, research it, do it, figure it out, and struggle with it. Research it,
That's so
do it,
good.
figure it out, and struggle with it. Because
Uh-huh.
as you are struggling through it, your brain is going to start lining things up with questions and questions and questions. God gave us five senses for a reason: sight, touch, taste, hearing. And to be able to use those five senses to gather in the raw data, to struggle with something, to figure it out, the more those five senses that you will line up together, the more things are going to start clicking inside your mind. So training is done
Wow.
alone. So watch this. What is practice? Practice is when you are with cohorts. Practice is when you meet up with a coach, with a mentor, with somebody who's an expert, somebody who knows it better than you do. So you show up at
Mhm.
practice and you working through it with cohorts who are going through the same thing you're going through. And then you have an opportunity to talk to the master, to talk to the coach, to talk
Mhm.
to the mentor, to talk to the person who knows it, the expert. But you asking them questions about solidifying your training, because during the training process, certain things you're just not going to be able to know. And you take those questions to the expert, and then what happens all of a sudden when you ask them those questions, your training gets solidified. And now you know, because the next stage is going to work. Well, what is work? Work is the game. Work is the arena. Work is fun. It's exciting at that point because now you've trained and now you've practiced and now you pull all that together to go show everybody, hey, guess what? I got this. I got this. I got this so well that I'm all of a sudden going to become the coach, become the master, become the mentor, become the expert because I've trained and I've practiced and now I can go to work. What happens when you do those things out of order?
Mm.
What if you didn't train, but you just show up at practice? You're wasting the coach's time. You're wasting the mentor's time because now they got to go to zero with you and build you up to try to get you caught up to a position where they can even teach you anything new. So don't do that. What if you train but don't go to practice? Then you show up at work and you still have questions. You never had a chance to practice it with cohorts or to have an opportunity to talk with the coach, to talk with the mentor, to talk with the expert. So now you're exposed. But you train though, but you're exposed. It has to go together. Train alone, practice with others, go to work to show how great you are.
Wow. That's really good, because a lot of times the element that we're missing is putting in the work. One of the things that I learned through the wisdom that I asked for was I learned that I had to develop myself as a man. There were things that I had to learn. There were things that I had to practice. There were things that I had to do, right? I had to do the hard stuff, right? The stuff of really taking a look at myself in the mirror. That stuff that's difficult work, right? And, because one of the things I found very valuable, over the course of my children, especially over the course of the life of my children, especially as they got older, was that transparency. I met an older gentleman. He's gone on now, but he was in his 90s when I met him. An older pastor. I was in Washington State to speak at a conference that was going on there, and I met this older pastor gentleman there, and he was, like I said, in the 90s. He was just in our meeting with him. He was just talking to us and sharing with us a whole bunch of different things, and of course, I wanted to hear what he had to say. You're 90. I want to hear what you have to say.
That's right.
And one of the things he said to us was, "Don't be afraid." And I'll make sure I'm trying to get this right. Don't be afraid of suffering. Can't be afraid of suffering, right? Because the truth of the matter is, and whenever wisdom, I like to use this statement: wisdom begets wisdom.
That's right.
And so when he made that statement and he said that to us, man, the wheels were turning in my head for days, right? Just thinking about that. And it was something really simple, right? It wasn't, this prolific, big words or all that kind of, it was something so simple yet so profound. And it made me think, right? And the more I started thinking, the more I realized that, a part of this process of suffering is what we perceive or what we understand or what we describe as failure, right? And a lot of times when we hear that word failure, there's a lot of negative connotation that's associated with failure. But there's also a lot of positive, as it relates to failure that we really don't think about sometimes. And I think I've heard some of the sports figures say, a professional baseball player would tell you that, although he's celebrated for home runs, he's missed more of those balls than he's ever hit. Basketball player would tell you that, although, hey man, I hit the buzzer beater, I missed more shots than I made. And the truth be told, we cannot be afraid of failure, because being afraid of failure guarantees that you'll never succeed. And it's like I have to choose to embrace everything, like you're saying, everything that comes along with that. Maybe even when I'm sitting down and I'm getting that feedback, that feedback gives me an opportunity to evaluate, what are those things that I missed? It's not. I really want to hear what you think about how important it is, and I think you might have hit on it just a little bit, but I want to explore it just a little bit more about when I get that feedback. And I'm getting that feedback. I've asked for it, and I've done some self-examination, which is something I do quite often. when you get that feedback, how important it is not to take it personal.
Mm.
You know, not to just get, to the point where, you become, very despondent and, all those kind of different things like that. Because just because I'm getting some feedback at the moment that's not good, it doesn't mean that can't change, that can't be better. So tell me about that, how important it is not to take that personal.
So this is where everybody's going to probably turn me off when I say this.
Uh-oh.
It is personal. It's supposed to be,
Mm.
because it's about a
Mm-hmm.
person, which is you. So, and
Mm-hmm.
I leaned in close so I can say that very, 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 very distinctly. It's about you.
Mm-hmm.
You should
Mm-hmm.
be praising the person for taking the time to even tell you something. That's the gift. It's a present that they're giving to you. You should
Mm-hmm.
embrace that present, regardless if this is where true levels of emotional intelligence has to be worked on a consistent basis. Just because somebody says something to you and the delivery did not appease how you wanted to receive it doesn't mean what they was telling you was not true. It just means that you're sensitive. Really, that's what it really means. So you have to understand that somebody giving you feedback, they took the time to think about you. Aren't you a great topic for somebody to think about? I can appreciate that. By all means, please do think about Albert, because that means you care about Albert enough to think about me, to give me
Oh
the
my
present
gosh.
of feedback. It's okay.
Uh-huh.
It's okay, because guess what? Sometimes I'm not going to be perfect. I am not going to do everything
Yeah.
just right. And I'll go one step further. I'm not going to do everything perfect for that person that might be giving me the feedback. They might be sharing something that may be a blind spot that I'm not even seeing. Here's a story for
Mm-hmm.
you. I'm gonna share this with your audience. I have speaking engagements all over everywhere, and I've been doing this for many, many, many years. Younger in my career, I was speaking to an international audience, and I kept saying the word Pacific when I was intending to use the word specific. So after the presentation was over, I get a standing ovation, and I'm thinking I'm this is going high level, did a great job. There's this guy from Norway. He walks up to me and he says, Albert, that was an amazing presentation. It was so well spoken, well presented, and your delivery was outstanding. But I do have one question for you, Albert. I couldn't understand, why did you keep talking about the Pacific Ocean? And I was trying to put that as a part of all of this. And I said, what are you like? In my mind, I'm like, what is he talking about? This has nothing to do with the Pacific Ocean at all. And then I stepped back, and to avoid being in my feelings about it, because I'm thinking, no, I thought I did well, and this guy's telling me something about some Pacific Ocean. I had to think about it and realize that my country butt not articulating myself appropriately just threw off half the audience in the room. I needed that feedback. I had to thank God for giving me that feedback, because if I never would have gotten that
Whoa.
feedback, I would still say Pacific when I mean specific.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Right.
okay. It's okay. Feedback is a present. Accept it and thank those that are willing to give it to you.
I love that, because one of the things I talk about, or mention quite often on this podcast, and this is a perfect time for me to say it, guys. Y'all know I always say that all we are, right, is I am a good man doing the best I can and working every day to make my best better. But the only way for me to make my best better is sometimes subject myself to allow myself to self-evaluate and then hear that feedback from someone else. Like, how can this be better? Because there's always going to be room for improvement. One of the things I stress quite often, I like to talk about this. a lot of times, even when we're talking with, married people and stuff like that, I often like to stress the truth of the matter is that no, the best thing that I do, the thing that I'm great at, is still something that needs improvement. There's always going to be something lacking, even in the things that I do best.
That's right.
And I have to keep that understanding, right? Because that's humility, right? That's a demonstration of humility. Like I told you, one of the things that I found very valuable in my relationship with our children was leveling with them, and being transparent. We had a conversation one time, and there would be times where I would just kind of talk to the children and just ask for their feedback, like do with the children. And I wanted to just kind of talk to them and hear what they had to say, what was on their heart, what was on their mind. And I often would say this to them. I say, guys, I need y'all to understand, your mom and I, sometimes we are wrong. Now, I wish you could have seen the looks on their faces when I said that, right? But sometimes your mom and I are wrong. Now, I need you to understand, it's never your place to try to correct us when we are wrong, right? But sometimes the truth of the matter is we are wrong. But here's my commitment. When I recognize that I'm wrong, when I recognize that I could have done something better or something like that, I make the commitment that I'm going to come back to you. And that means if we need to apologize, we'll apologize, whatever we need to do, to correct that, because our children are people too. And I can't teach you something. One of the things I talked about when I was speaking at the summit this past weekend was that training and teaching for a parent, when the Bible says train up a child in the way he should go, when he's old, won't depart from him. Training and teaching is a combination of articulation and demonstration. Like I don't articulate what I don't demonstrate, right? And demonstrating without articulation really is not teaching me very much. But especially that thing of having the combination of those two. That old adage and that old statement of do as I say and not as I do does not work. It is not a sustainable model. So what I do is I taught my children by both articulation and demonstration. So if I'm teaching you respect, then that means a part of me teaching you respect is giving you the respect that I should give you as a person, as a human being, even though you are my child, which is what causes me not to abuse you and all those kind of different things like that. There's a level of respect I have to give to you as well. And so I think those things are super important for us. And I love that story. That was so funny, man. I mean, my brother's up here talking about the Pacific Ocean and everyone in his presentations, man.
What is he talking
But
about?
that feedback helped you. It helped you grow. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right.
I mean, because he couldn't have been the only one thinking that you're talking about the Pacific Ocean, right?
No, not at all.
And then perhaps there was somebody in the audience that was saying that. And there had to be probably somebody in the audience that was probably saying, nah, he don't even know how to say specific. Right? But that helped you. That made you better. Right? So these things make us better. Like I can always be better. I love that. I love it. So tell me, one of the other subject matters that your book talks about, because obviously you're dealing with issues of character, right? And character development. But your book also touches on money. And so I want to kind of hit that a little bit, let me just say this shameless plug. All right. He's not going to tell you everything here, but you know what you can do? Get the book.
That's it.
Get the book. Go get the book. Again, that's a part of that development, right? You gotta read, you gotta study, you gotta research, and you gotta get your hands on the tools. One thing, I do my own car repairs. And the reason I do most of my own car repairs. It's become a hobby of mine, actually. One of the reasons why I got into it was because I didn't have the budget to pay people all this labor, at one point in time. So I was like, well, let me just figure out how to do this. And the more I started doing it, the more I started to like doing it. So, now I kind of do my own repairs. Even if I can't pay, I just kind of, if it's a repair that I can do, I just kind of do it myself because it's kind of therapeutic and I like to do it. But the way I'm successful at doing those repairs is by investing in the right tools. So the more we want to develop to be all we can be, we need to get the right tools. And so your book touches a little bit about money. So when we talk about money, let's just hit that a little bit. What are some of the financial lessons that you can be valuable for families as it relates to this book?
So I have to always begin with this. I am a CPA, but I'm not your CPA. So if everything we talk about is for educational purposes only and not any type of advice for you to go and do whatever this guy on the internet told you to go do. No, that's not what this is. So get you a good CPA. That's the best advice that I can possibly give. And make sure that you're contracted with that CPA with a signed engagement letter. So that's when it becomes real. Now, with that being said, I always like to preference this, that we are in a capitalism society. What does that mean? Well, it truly means that money is only a tool. I want to make sure that's very, very clear. Money is a tool. Just like this pen is a tool, just like a hammer is a tool, it means that it's used to do something for a particular reason, for a particular purpose. That purpose is to be able to get resources of goods and services for you to be able to sustain yourself and to be able to scale yourself and scale your family. So never, never, never put money ahead of anything, knowing that it's only a tool. 100%, especially because we have a fiat currency. And that means that our money is just a piece of paper. If you were ever to read the dollar bill, it says the word note, which means that it is a piece of paper as a promissory note that we have all agreed that we're going to exchange this for this particular value. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Because if one day, if we decide that that piece of paper is not what we want it to be no more, and we're going to exchange something else, that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. So I want everybody to understand that and put that into a frame for you first. Now, because money is just a tool to obtain resources of goods and services, what are the goods and services? Well, the number one good and services is be able to have a roof over your head to protect you for shelter, clothes on your back to keep you warm and dry, and food in your belly to keep you energized and able to move. Those are those are the true necessities. And properly have water to hydrate yourself. I see the picture of the water behind you with quality water to hydrate yourself appropriately. These are the things that are the true needs. But from the needs, there are certain wants that we have. So what are the wants? And I want to make sure we frame this the right way. A want is only something that is to make the need better. That's it. I have a small house. I want a big house. Do I need a big house? No. I need a roof over my head to make sure that I don't get wet and I'm protected from the elements of outside. That's it. So when you are dealing with your money, you need to make sure you put it in the right buckets of where it needs to go. Needs. You got to make sure you can take care of yourself. Wants. All it does is to make the needs a little bit better. Do you need them? No. They're just wants. They're just wants. The other big piece that I think a lot of people don't realize is that savings is not the best end all be all. Why? Because every dollar has a purpose. That dollar is supposed to work for you. So you need to have a rainy day fund, but you also need to have your money working and investing for you. So being able to invest your money is extremely, extremely important. Now, I say all of that, and I began by saying we are in a capitalistic environment, which also means that there's something called credit that we have to make sure we can address. The money cycle is just that. It is a cycle that's built off the backs of crediting power, especially in this country. There's a give and take that takes place. The money that I make is the money I'm going to put into my community. That money I put into my community, if I go to the grocery store, that's going to be the payroll for the people who work at the grocery store. They're going to get paid, and that money's going to move on to another to be able to take care of their families and their household, which means they're going to put more money into that cycle. This cycle has to continue going on and on and on. And whenever that cycle stops, that's when something happens called stagnation, and everything stops. It's not that's not what we want at all. So keeping that money cycle going, understand how the credit cycle actually works. Those are the things that you need to make sure you understand to really be productive in your family, but be productive for yourself, be productive for your family. And then ultimately, if you decide that you want to have a business to be productive and to be able to scale a business, you have to understand how these cycles work. Because I tell your audience, I want everybody to hear this clear. And again, take your pen out and write it down. Accounting is the heartbeat of business, but it's also the key to personal finance success. That when you know your numbers, you know clarity. And when you have clarity, you're able to make reasonable decisions in a timely basis to make sure that you're not making decisions under chaos. You have to know your numbers. And it's very, very important to have that level of vision and have that level to make sure that you can continue to scale. So 100%, accounting is the heartbeat. And having that heartbeat and monitoring that heartbeat is extremely, extremely important for every individual, every family, and of course, for every business.
Wow. See, that's good information right there. And I'm sure that there's a deeper breakdown of this.
100%. Yes.
What am I saying?
We got a greater destiny in Yeshua's name. Living kingdom culture, breaking every chain. Sound the alarm. Rise up strong. Contend for the faith where we belong. Boldly we stand. Passionately fight.